We are Jacob and Anna White. We are carpenters from Alaska. We've helped millions of people build their own furniture through our plans and website. But now, we are going beyond that. We're going to show you how to build yourself a house, tiny style. In this video series, we'll show you step by step how to go from a trailer to a beautiful finished home. Make sure you subscribe and follow along.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching our electrical video last week on the tiny house. We're pretty excited to be working inside. After we got the electrical and the spray foam wrapped up, it's time to do the interior wall finish.
So today we're going to show you what product we chose to put on the walls and how to install it.
On a normal house, you would just drywall the interior walls, but since this is a tiny house and weight is a big concern, and also since it's on wheels and it'll be shifting and moving, we were worried about drywall seams cracking. We decided that we're not going to drywall the interior walls. Another option that we could have done would have been just like 4x8 sheets of paneling, maybe like beadboard paneling. It's usually about 1/4 inch thick. And we opted not to do that because we saved weight by putting our wall studs 24 inch on center, which, you know, is a gap this wide. So as the paneling would go on the wall, you might have issues where it's, you know, waving between the studs because there's no structure there. And also, since we spray foam, some of the places the spray foam may have bubbled out a little bit, so your walls just would not look good with paneling, is what we ultimately decided, without something behind it. Normally paneling is installed over drywall, and the drywall is providing the structure.
So yeah, I mean, other options you could have done were plywood. You could do that, paint it, you know, put some wood strips up, make it look like, you know, some kind of paneling.
Anytime you use some sort of sheet goods like 4x8 drywall, paneling, plywood, every time you get to a window or a door, you have to just cut that window and door out, and that is scrap, it's waste.
In the end, we chose to do 3/4 inch tongue and groove, and that gave the structure and the rigid it had to span the 24 inch on centers.
With tongue and groove, you cut to that window and door, and then you start on the other side of it. So there's minimal waste as well with tongue and groove.
And, you know, all in all, it looks really good too.
Okay, so one thing we should have told you in last video, and I'm going to tell you in this video, before you spray foam your walls, walk through all of your framing and make sure that you have places to start and end your tongue and groove. So if you need to nail in some just boards in the wall in the end so that there's always somewhere to start and stop your tongue groove, it's very important. Once the spray foam is in there, it's not going to be fun to go back and replace those boards. It's really important to make sure that your trailer itself is leveled before you start the tongue groove, so hopefully you've been doing that all along.
A good way to start is you have to have a starting point, and that means in any room you have to have a point that is exactly level all the way around, because if you start on one side and it's not level and you go up the wall, your seams will stagger as you go and it won't look right. So you want to start with an even all the way around. We started with a 3/4 inch block and we fit it underneath the first row of a tongue groove, and then we kept our line all the way around the building. So if you start good, you're going to end good. So keep that in mind when you're doing tongue groove paneling, because if you don't start with a nice even line at the bottom, your first row, then you're going to have major problems and it's not going to look right.
So what we like to do with our tongue and groove is we like to complete a wall up as far as we can and then go on to the next wall. The reason for this is the corners. So you'd go all the way and then the next piece of tongue and groove would fit in that way.
Alright, so we went and bought some 16 footers, and this is not a 16 footer, but those are over there. And we set up a miter saw, which is super easy to cut on. So when you're cutting out around a window, a door, or you're cutting between two ends of walls, just subtract 1/4 inch because it's all getting trimmed out later on. So that way when you go put it in, it slides right in place, you don't have to come back to the saw, boom, it's done, you're on to the next piece.
The trim will hide it, so this piece of tongue and groove is probably cut 1/4 inch short of where, you know, it's not all the way flush, and then the trim pieces come and cover it so you'll never see it.
Fastening your tongue groove to the wall is really simple. You will take a finish nail, an 18 gauge finish nail, and you will put it in a 45-degree angle right on the bottom edge of the tongue, and you'll just kind of shoot it in, and that way the fastener is hidden. When you're all said and done, you won't see any nail holes because the groove will cover the nail hole, and that's the way to do tongue groove.
Then you don't have to go back later and fill all the holes. But when you get to openings like windows and doors where you'll have trim covering it, just nail right through the face of that tongue groove. The trim will cover it and you'll never see it.
Obviously we don't have boards to go the long 24-foot. So what we did is we cut a 16-footer and you split it on a stud. But the next one when you cut, you'll finish your wall out. The next one you want to stagger. Never have a seam going straight up. So stagger your joints so it goes up the wall like that and you'll never see it. So right here's a good example of where we came and stopped the other one, and you just run past. Now we got a staggered joint now right there. So we'll run a board the rest of the way on that one, and then when we come back, we'll come back and hit it somewhere in here. So you kind of alternate all the way as you go up the wall.
You'll come to a receptacle. Receptacles are really easy to work with. Basically how I do it is I'll put my tongue groove board up where it should go in place. Just set your board over the electrical box in place, mark it with a pencil, figure out how deep the cut needs to be, and cut it out with a jigsaw. It's really simple and it's really fast. Wood's not perfect, so don't expect to, especially if you don't have the highest quality tongue groove, don't expect for it just to, you know, go together like Lego blocks.
Most tongue groove is it's pretty good, and it should slide, especially a 3/4 inch tongue groove. It should just go together very nicely. You know, they do cut the groove just a slight bit smaller than the groove so you don't fight it.
But you can use a scrap piece of tongue groove. Don't ever use a hammer on your finished edge of tongue groove because you'll damage it. So instead, use a scrap piece of tongue groove, place it in the board that you're trying to push down, and then use a hammer to hammer on the top of your beater board.
So what's next? We're going to paint this thing. Get it all painted. It'll be all done. We'll let the paint set, and then we're going to come back and we're going to stain the tongue groove boards and put it on the ceiling.
We actually did also build the loft at this point. We'll show you how to do that in the next video, and painted that as well because it was going to be the same color. So he just primed and sprayed it with a sprayer, and it took him...
Yeah, it took me a few hours. I mean, obviously take advantage of that time where, you know, you save so much time from hand painting it.
Yeah, and you don't have to like cover your windows and doors and all that stuff. Like, do it now while it's easy. The ceiling really follows the same process as the walls. One thing that we did different is we wanted a stain ceiling, so we pre-stained those boards on sawhorses and pre-finished them so that we're not staining over our head, and then we installed the boards up on the ceiling pre-finished. We decided to start our tongue groove at the wall and then work up to the peak, and the reason that we did that is because you're not fighting gravity. Like, you have your board and then the next one just slides in instead of trying to push it up and nail it in place. It was easier. And also what we did was we ripped that first tongue groove board to the angle between the ceiling and the wall, so it was a nice clean fit and we don't have to trim that out later. One thing that I think we did that was smart was we painted everything white, not like off-white, not a mixed white, just white, so that it's really easy to touch up. Thanks guys for watching. We're really enjoying working on the tiny house, and we're hoping you're enjoying this whole series. Next week we're gonna do the loft bed system, so make sure you subscribe and tune in.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
That was my serious line today.
No, I mean, that's really good because that needs to be in there, because you're right, there's people out there, there's builders that are going to be like, doo-doo-doo, and then they're going to be like, uh-oh.
Where do I end this board?
Where do I nail it in the corner? When you're starting your tongue groove, you want to start from the bottom. That's just, better not say that.
Maybe you talk about the paneling. The paneling wouldn't have provided any structure either.
The paneling wouldn't provide any structure either.
What do you think of the painted walls?
One of these days I'm going to get a place that has just regular wood walls.
What does that mean? You don't like them?
No, I just tease my wife, but I think it looks really nice in the end. She knows how to make things pop out and wow, and looks good.